All right, I am happy to be joined with Paul Peterson. He's the founder and CEO of Nextleaf Solutions, which trades on the CSE under the ticker symbol OILFF. Paul, how are things?
Things are great here in Vancouver, Shad. Thanks for having me.
Can you help us out here in Ontario? Everything's locked down here. I hear life in BC is almost like it's normal.
I mean, it's pretty locked down here. I mean, it's a little bit better than Ontario, I think. But the vaccines are ramping up, so hopefully, before not too long, we're all back to normal here.
Well, wanted to have you on. I know you and I have had some ongoing conversations. Met you a couple of years ago, but important to obviously really focus on your business model as this industry continues to heat up. A lot has changed, to say the least, in the Canadian cannabis landscape and the American, to say the least, since the last time we saw each other. We all know patents are a big thing, an important thing in any business model, especially in cannabis. Currently, right now, your company actually has the second most patents in the US and 60 patents globally around the extraction, purification, and delivery of cannabinoids molecules. So tell us why that's important and how you plan to leverage that as the industry matures, especially south of the border.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the largest holder of patents, and they don't call themselves a cannabis company, but it was GW Pharma, just got acquired by Jazz Pharmaceutical, $7.2 billion.
Right.
And GW had 57 issued US patents around cannabis extraction and processes. They obviously have a CBD-based drug being sold in the United States. So 57 US patents. And then obviously Canopy has the most patents of any cannabis company, and Nextleaf's right behind. And for us, it's important because it allows us, as a smaller company, we're a startup. I think we're batting way above our weight when it comes to innovation and what we've been able to do when it comes to the production of high purity, low cost CBD and THC molecules, is that we've been able to innovate and develop some processes and methodology that we think allow Nextleaf to have a significant competitive advantage when it comes to the production of these high purity oils in a very cost effective manner. We've developed a custom engineered extraction, purification, distillation plant here in Vancouver, full licenses from Health Canada. It's been a 4.5-year process of inventing this system. We didn't use off the shelf equipment. We went and we built a plant similar to what you'd see in oil and gas. It's an oil refinery, and what we refine is cannabis oils. We remove the fats and the waxes and all the impurities that you get in a normal cannabis extraction. We go beyond a crude oil into that high purity distillate. Yeah. It's like a moonshine versus an aged scotch. Yeah. We've developed 14 issued US patents, over 70 patents globally around extraction, distillation, and delivery of cannabinoids. We think it's very significant. As a smaller company, allows us to compete globally against some of the largest companies in the world. And to answer your question, to kind of sum it up really easy, why are patents important? They're important because you look at who's getting them right now. The biggest patent holders for cannabis, Pharmaceutical, Pfizer, Merck, right? GW, we talked about.
What's that mean for you then with a lot of these big names? Let's think forward thinking. What are some of the conversations, or I guess feedback, that you're receiving? Are you having conversations with some of these bigger brand companies, and what's the feedback that they provide based on your business model?
For sure. And we've had, just to speak openly, we've had lots of conversations. Really, that's part of my job every day.
Right.
And, especially a lot of the success, I think we've surprised a lot of people with just the success that we've had in getting issued patents. We have over a 99% success rate of pending patents into issued patents. And every time we get a new patent, that's something that's, disruptive. We just recently got a patent issued for the derivatization of THC and CBD. Taking THC or CBD distillate and actually turning it into a THC or CBD based derivative through acetylation. It's a pharmaceutical technique that they use to make drugs from herbal forms, and that opened up a lot of conversations with some of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. That quite frankly, they're spending their time to talk to a company of Nextleaf size, because we are batting way above our weight when it comes to IP development. And you know, pharmaceutical companies, big pharma, big tobacco, these guys aren't interested in farming.
Right.
These guys are interested in, just like the pharmaceutical, biotech, life science industry, it's all about developing IP around drugs and products that are differentiated, that you can have your 20-year patent on, and you can have something that's unique in the marketplace. And you know, cannabis, when you're growing it, is a commodity, right?
Yeah.
It's an agricultural good. You know, certainly I think there's been a lot of interest from not just, you know, big pharma. You know, I talk about Pfizer, but you know, British American Tobacco just invested $250 million in Organigram here in Canada, and that $250 million investment, you know, British American Tobacco talk a lot about R&D and developing intellectual property. You know,
have you thought about the psychedelic space as well? Because that seems to be just growing exponentially as well, and it's all about IP within that industry as well.
We've been talking about it a lot internally. I mean, we've got a team. We've got about 24 engineers, PhD chemists. We really started the company with a gentleman, our co-founder, 15 years of cannabis extraction experience, and we surrounded Ryan with this fantastic team, some of the smartest PhDs, guys that have left some of the biggest cannabis companies to come and join us. And I think the reason for that is our culture. But also, you know, internally, we have talked a lot about psychedelics. I think there's a lot of interest in our team, because I think it extends a little bit from what the cannabis industry has been able to do, and that's changed the narrative with legalization of these plant-based medicines. And you know, there's a societal change that's happening, and you know, consumers, medical patients, you know. The general public is looking for more natural plant-based alternatives and ways to deal with things like chronic pain, sleeping disorders, depression, anxiety, and you know, it's something that's undeniable that cannabinoids you know, can be used for that. Obviously, you know, there's some carryover into psychedelics. We've got some stuff to announce in the next few weeks that you'll be interested about. It'll be tight-lipped on it, but you know, for us, I think. One thing I like to say this a lot, you know, one thing that's undeniable when you look at Nextleaf is that we have outperformed a lot of billion-dollar companies when it comes to developing intellectual property, when it comes to protecting patents. You know, a lot of people talk about pending patents. We've gone out there and again, over 99% success rate. But I think we've
which is only, this is going to get even more bigger and more crucial as the industry evolves. Like, look at the lawsuit happening, obviously, with Canopy that you'd mentioned before. But as brands start to expand and obviously build out, like, walk me through and kind of educate us where you see the landscape in the next 5 years when it comes to a lot of this.
You know, I think there's you know, to succeed and to really build a lot of value, there's got to, you know, two types of companies that build a great brand, right? A brand that is like a world-renowned brand, or a brand that consumers will gravitate to over other products, right? And a brand is intellectual property, right? That's your trademarks and everything else. And then there's the other type of IP, and that's patents, and that's the technology to be able to produce those branded products more efficiently, you know, so, you know, lower price per gram or per cannabinoid. And that's really where we fit in, right? Where we fit in is that we believe there's not enough companies that have really focused on securing a competitive advantage. Our competitive advantage is we produce low cost, high purity distillate more efficiently than anybody else in our market.
Okay.
I'll say that to any CEO in Canada here, in Canada, the largest regulated market in the world, right? And for us, everything that we do with our business is built on that competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all about taking those the oil, the THC and CBD based molecules and putting those into finished products that are formulated in a way that allow us to differentiate, create something unique. You know, talk a little bit about our patents around acetylation of cannabinoids. We think it's really significant, but you know, I think when you look at our process patents around our chilled ethanol extraction through molecular distillation, we think there's a tremendous amount of value. You referenced the GW Pharma lawsuit. I mean, Canopy Growth has brought the first patent infringement lawsuit in Canada.
Right.
GW was acquired by Jazz Pharmaceutical, $7 billion. I don't know if that lawsuit was related, but it asks the question, well, what are patents worth? I mean, what would they be worth to GW if they would have had patent protection against Canada? And I think, you look at the tobacco industry, there's so much patent infringement activity that really drives M&A activity. Right? Same as in the biotech space. And I think cannabis in the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot more activity when it comes to patents, and patents really driving both the competitive advantage, but also M&A.
I want to talk about the announcement that was made last week. Predominantly, your business has always been wholesale, but now getting to business to consumer. You purchased a brand called Glacier Gold. I want to learn more about this brand because from what I hear, people from BC love it. Why do they love it? And if I'm from the East Coast of Canada or the US, walk me through. What is this brand all about, and why does it garner so much interest?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the biggest cannabis brands before weed was legal here in Canada, I think it connected with consumers, and it won a lot of awards based on using high purity distillates as the ingredient to manufacture Glacier Gold products. So for us, we think that based on our competitive advantage, we think it aligned really well with our company, but we really love the story around it. I think it's hard to build brands in Canada with all the advertising restrictions. So, we went there and just like
how that goes, right?
For sure. And look, how has Nextleaf, a company of our size, out innovated and developed more patents and IP than billion-dollar companies that have had the resources to hire 100, PhDs in Israel to just focus on IP development? The answer is that I think we've done a great job in bringing citizen scientists in, folks that had been extracting and innovating with cannabinoids for years and decades before weed was legal, and surrounded that real world experience with our team of PhD chemical engineers, chemists, and regulatory folks. And we've been able to what I like to call one of the largest technology transfers from the unregulated market into the legal cannabis market. It's allowed us to develop over 70 patents issued globally. And it's the same sort of thing with the brand here. I mean, we love the opportunity to bring this brand into the legal market that already has a following and already, I think, has some cachet with consumers that recognize it as one of the great brands on the West Coast. But, for us, our business isn't a consumer packaged goods company. It is around technology. It is around our cannabis oil refinery. We have some of the biggest cannabis companies globally that we supply with CBD and THC molecules. But we also believe that we create the most shareholder value by increasing the utilization of our cannabis oil refinery. And we do that through both B2B wholesale, but also through branded products. And we think that it's a big opportunity here in Canada because we've watched the last 2 years companies get too big too fast.
I know.
Destroyed their brand with quality products. And for us, we're coming in at a perfect point. We've got a very lean operating structure. We've got the perfect size of operation footprint here in Canada, allows us to scale our business and capture significant market share, but most importantly, be it the most important part of the supply chain. And we want to be in the part of the industry where we are building a moat around our technology that we think will make it very, very difficult on some of the biggest tobacco companies, some of the biggest pharmaceutical companies, some of the biggest beverage alcohol companies in the world, when it comes to those companies producing CBD and THC oils efficiently without violating our IP. Right? And that's what it's about.
Conversations I like to have is get people re-educated when it comes to cannabis sector. I think companies like yourself have obviously been affected by what rolled out in the Canadian cannabis landscape because there was a lot of speculation and a lot of hype around not true fundamentals. Do you see the same thing happening in the US? I see big dollars obviously being generated with these multi-state operators, but as they expand, you see a lot of these mergers and acquisitions. How do you see this all unfolding? And do you see federal legalization anytime soon?
I don't see federal legalization until at least 2024.
Wow, really?
And this is consistent with what I said in 2019. I said 5 years away, and even with the Democrats, I come back to this simple Farm Bill 2018. Farm Bill legalized hemp. Here we are, 2021. We still don't have federal regulation around CBD-based products from the FDA. 3 years, and despite hemp being legal, there's no federal regulation. So it's going to take a long time. Canada legalized medical cannabis for 13 years before we had adult use cannabis. It's going to take a while in the US. Our strategy backs that up. I think it's a big mistake, anyone that's investing in assets in the United States, because I think a lot of those assets are going to be obsolete when there's FDA federal regulations. Right now, there's no federal regulations, and there's very limited state regulations in many of these markets. So we believe, as a company, our best strategy in the US is to develop the largest portfolio of US patents around the extraction, purification, and delivery of cannabinoids. Those are 20-year US patents. For us, we will not deploy any capital into US assets until there's a federal framework in place, or at least an understanding on when that framework is going to come into to actually evolve. Coming along.
I hear you.
And for us, until then, we're going to focus here in Canada, where it's legal, where it's regulated, and more importantly, where the biggest companies globally are investing their money. British American Tobacco, they didn't invest in an MSO. Altria, they didn't invest in an MSO. Constellation Brands, Imperial Brands, you go down the list, they invested in Canada for one reason: it's federally legal, and it allows these conglomerates, these billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar companies to come in here and develop IP. And again, follow tea leaves. You see who's getting the most patents: Pfizer, these big pharma companies. That is where cannabis is going to go. We're 4 years ahead of the curve. We've been developing these patents here for the last 4 years. We're going to keep doing it. And for us, we think it's a big opportunity, because Canada is just the first domino to fall. It's the first developed country to legalize. And we think by building a platform based on producing low-cost oils here in Canada, it's going to be very easy to take that platform and expand globally to Europe, to the United States. We're not going to do it too soon. We're going to stay IP heavy, asset light. But we think it's a great opportunity. And for us, we're in the part of the supply chain that we think where we need to be in order to build tremendous shareholder value.
It's a great strategy. Last thing I wanted to ask you is, I've talked to a few clients, and we look at like extraction oils, the countries that are starting to open up and considering looking at this differently, including even China, but a lot of growth obviously happening overseas. When I look at the Canadian landscape, there's a glut of cannabis flower in Canada right now, and over 1 million kilograms of cannabis inventory rests in LP vaults right now, which is absolutely staggering. So saying that, would you say the supply for premium cannabis oil anywhere near that of dried cannabis flower on a relative basis?
No, I would say there's definitely the data suggests that there's a lot more supply of flower. But when you unpack that, there's actually a glut of supply of low quality flower that really can't be sold as a dried product, and it's purely biomass. And there's actually a lack of supply of high quality flower. And you look at some of the LPs that are focused on that premium, ultra premium market, they're actually their price per gram is actually going up. So I think that's a positive sign. But what's a bad sign for is guys that have spent millions, hundreds of millions, or billions building indoor cultivation facilities that are expensive to operate and that grow average to below average product, because there is no market for that product at all. And our business is all around taking this low quality input, what we call garbage into gold, garbage into glacial gold. And we look at the oil market, and there is starting to be a glut of oils, generally lower quality, lower purity distillate. And what that means is it's got a lot of fats, waxes, chlorophylls, dyes, undesirables that cause issues with taste and smell when you add it to an edible. The sugars in it make the oil ferment. We've seen that. Certainly a kilo of distillate isn't a kilo of distillate. Same as flour. For us, we developed a technology, especially on the post-extraction side, to go from that crude extract into that higher purity distillate through our filtration, refinement, and distillation process to get to that higher purity molecule. And that is very beneficial when it comes to standardization. But what's more importantly is cost, right? And for us, that's really where our competitive advantage is being able to produce these high purity molecules very, very efficiently through automation, by custom engineering a plant. That's where a lot of our IP comes in.
Right.
And for us, you got to have the right quality product, but you got to be able to produce it at a cost that you can compete with the illicit market, because globally, cannabis is the most widely used illicit drug in the world. Here in Canada, there's a big illicit market, and to succeed in the legal industry, you've got to be able to produce high quality product at a cost that consumers will pick yours over the illicit market.
Which you're a step ahead, obviously. I think this has been fascinating. It's been obviously a big learning curve, to say the least. And again, these are some of the interviews that we want to conduct with companies, because I, again, do feel that the Canadian cannabis landscape definitely impacted many, many companies, even if companies weren't necessarily looking for pure size and scale. People are beginning to get smarter at what they're doing. As you said, IP is a big thing right now. If you can be an innovator, diversification with a number of patents, it bodes well. And especially if the industry continues to heat up south of the border, even if federal legalization doesn't occur for another 3 to 4 years, it's very clear that the industry has yet again turned another corner. There's big expectations. So it should be interesting to see. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us, and let's keep in touch.